The wild thing about songwriting is every single session, you could be writing that song.
Anyone can be a songwriter. That's where the magic is.
That's it, really. It's pretty simple.
But that's how you learn.
It's your unique perspective that will change the landscape of music in the future.
There are infinite numbers of songs out there to be written.
Hi, everyone. My guest today is singer-songwriter Tamar Kaprevyan. Tamar, hi. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Sona. It's good to see you.
Okay, so I want to start about your new venture called SongStart. I'm following it on Spotify. It's very interesting. How did that come about?
SongStart came about right at the start of the pandemic. I realized that the work that I was doing in person in countries like Armenia and Malawi, and I'd been doing this work for many years on the ground in person in these regions. I realized that work was no longer going to be able to be done in that way. So it came about more out of a sense of necessity and a sense of wanting to continue doing good work in these regions and helping creatives in these regions, and knowing that it had to be done in some kind of innovative digital way. Otherwise it was, the work was kind of going to cease to exist. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of, it came about that way, and I partnered with a friend of mine.
So it's basically an educational podcast / video that teaches songwriters and singers how to write songs, produce, how to do the business side of the music industry. Do I have it right?
Exactly. So it is a free resource. It teaches songwriting. You described it perfectly right. Yeah, I mean, it's cool because this information usually doesn't exist all in one place. So our goal here was to get all of it living in one area, in one site, and it to be able to compete with what's being taught in institutions, music institutions.
That's what I thought was super cool about it, because I always say, if you want to be a lawyer, that you go to law school, the proper steps to take. The entertainment industry is really hard to navigate through a lot of times, and everyone has such a different journey. So are you partnered with Spotify on this project?
Yeah, so for the first season, we partnered with Spotify. We knew that if the goal was to get this out to as many people as possible, then it would be smart to work with a company that could disseminate the information out to thousands and thousands of people, because the goal is that we get this information in as many hands as we possibly can.
So did you come up with this concept?
Yeah, so my good friend and I came up with the concept. We were on a hike, it was like March, end of March, and we were slightly panicking. We were panicking because we had this deep desire to want to help people, and we felt like our hands were tied, because we had no idea what was going on with the pandemic at that time. We didn't know how long it was going to last. So we just kind of put our heads together and we literally started working on it the next day.
So then when you say you started working on it the next day, how exactly do you start a project like this? You have the idea, and then what's the next step?
That's a great question. We had been doing a version of this education and this teaching and this curriculum through my foundation, the VOC Foundation, which started a long time, which I started in 2016. So we had the basis of something of education, mostly teaching creatives how to write their own music. I realized through the work that I did with the foundation that I wanted to make this way more of a holistic experience. So not only teaching songwriting, but teaching production, mental health is a big component. So that's the fourth pillar actually. And then music business. And so what we did after that hike, inspired hike, we started putting together like essentially like calendar and saying, okay, by the end of July, the entire curriculum needs to be written in outline format. And we need to start shopping this concept to a handful of companies that we would potentially want to partner with because we needed funding. And so we stuck to that timeline. We started doing a lot of research between March and the end of July. We studied other education platforms that we thought were doing interesting, similar things. We actually took courses at Berklee College of Music. We signed up for 10 Berklee classes and actually took the classes as research. And then we also just applied common knowledge to creating these outlines because we were like, well, what would I have wanted to learn if I was just starting out? Or honestly, if I wasn't even going to get into the business and I just like want to watch this as an entertainment, series, what would I want to see? What would I want to get out of it? So we had a bunch of different perspectives that we were trying to bring to the table as we were building this out. And I think the important thing when you start something is really just to set goals that you can actually meet and then keep setting goals that will get you further along in the process every time.
So at this point, before actually setting up pitch meetings, do you have a treatment written out or are you shooting a pilot and going in with a pilot?
We did not have a pilot. We literally just had the curriculum. And we were like, this is who we want as the teacher. And what we do is we'd reach out to the talent. We'd explain to the talent what their episode was. We'd get feedback on the outline that we had written. And then what ended up happening is then it ended up being quite a collaborative process with the talent because, for example, my interpretation of inspiration and collaboration and my process is really different than what Charlie XCX's process is with inspiration and collaboration. So then they internalize and take the curriculum and make it their own, which is really cool. So it's hyper personalized to the talent that was teaching it. John Legend's episode was very hyper personalized to him. And we also did, I think the thing that also made this easier was we did a lot of research on the talent themselves. When we got a commitment, we went in and really did, at least 2 or 3 weeks worth of research on them to figure out, okay, what's important to them? What have they been through? What might their perspective be on this specific topic? So we went in with a real, a research hat in every single part of this process in order to get the quality that I think we got at the end.
It looks amazing. The quality is obviously great. So when you are reaching out to the talent, are you already partnered with Spotify at that point? You are. So how did your pitch meeting with Spotify go? And did you know that it was the one right away?
I'll be honest, we pitched to 3 companies. So we pitched to the 3 main music companies. We pitched to YouTube, we pitched to Spotify, and we pitched to Apple. And Spotify definitely there are reasons why we thought each of those would be good for different reasons, because each company does something very well that the other maybe doesn't. We knew that with Spotify, it's the go-to platform in a number of ways. And we knew that their reach was very, very big, and it's a big stamp of legitimacy. And we knew that we would be able to get the caliber of artists that we got if we partnered with them. Then we found a believer in the building. And we really wanted this to be a collaborative process. We brought something to them, but we really needed their help to be able to execute it. So we were fortunate that this awesome guy named Charlie, who we pitched the project to, he was just like, I want to fund this. I believe in this. Like he literally stamp of approval. And you know, when like a pitch goes well, it's immediate. You don't have to re-pitch and you don't have to follow up. There's this kind of like, it's like almost like a magic door just opens, and then shit starts going through the door very quickly. It was that kind of feeling. It was like the square peg being put in the square hole. Like it just went right in. So it felt really good. But you know, it was a lot of trial and error. I mean, when you're starting something, we've never produced a podcast or a video series. We'd never done that with that caliber talent. So it was a lot of, it was just like a lot of like hoping to God that it would pan out, and that it would just kind of organically move and manifest and happen. And it just kind of did.
What did you find to be the most challenging aspect of it?
I think once Spotify was on board, once we had a producer from their side on board, probably realistic expectations on timing of things was our hardest challenge. I think that we underestimated how much time we needed to be able to get that caliber of talent on board.
So how long did it take?
We started filming in May, and then we ended in September.
Well, that's not too bad though.
It's not too bad, but we thought we were going to finish it all in 6 weeks. And it's just not possible. It's just not possible.
Yeah, sometimes it takes 6 weeks just for the talent to get back in town. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So that I think was a miss. But we completed it, but we definitely needed more time.
Mm-hmm. So now you're basically a producer on this show.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. You
Essentially.
are a singer, songwriter / producer. Now, how does it all play into your music career? Because I think as a songwriter and a singer, it must also be really cool to have those caliber of artists that you're meeting and getting to work with them on a project, and it could open up new doors for you as a musician.
For sure. I have gone through a really interesting journey the last few years in terms of realizing that fulfillment, the thing that I love doing the most is creating. Now that can look like a number of different things. And I don't think I really realized what that meant until recently. Let's maybe say in the last 6 months. It could be creating a song, which is something that I love doing. And that's my first love, and the thing I've been doing the longest. But the thing I've also found a lot of fulfillment in is creating companies. And I really, really enjoy that part. I enjoyed building Navak Foundation, and it's still evolving and changing from what it originally started as, which is in and of itself its own creative process when you have to shift and evolve a company. So that's been really cool. SongStart was obviously an insane creative process because we wrote an entire curriculum from scratch. And that was fantastic and really stimulating. And then another friend of mine and I, and these companies all kind of work together. So there, it's it might seem like a lot, but in reality, they're all kind of coexisting in similar worlds. We started a record label and talent incubator called Navak Collective, which we launched in September, which is really cool. And I'm reorganizing and restructuring my creativity in different ways where I'm maybe not in front of the camera day to day now, but I'm really enjoying the behind the scenes work that I'm doing and helping other people tell their stories and discover their voices.
So you didn't quite see this as an opportunity to try to maybe like make those connections for yourself or for your own songwriting?
I didn't go into it with that intention.
Gotcha.
No, because I feel like the path that I'm currently on is to disrupt the music business in a huge way. And that's kind of, you can obviously do that through music, but you can also do that through actually changing the framework of the business. And that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, so tell me about that, because the music industry has already changed a lot in the last several years. So I'm interested in, how do you see the changes to be? Do you see them as positive changes, negative changes, and what are you looking to achieve? How do you want to change the industry?
You're right. The industry has changed a lot. It's obviously changed a lot from when traditional record labels were selling music, physical records, right? And then we came into the digital streaming world with Spotify and with Apple. And now we're kind of going into this new territory where creators want to own their own art.
Mm-hmm.
So we're entering what we're calling like a creator-owned ecosystem. And we are building a company that serves and super serves the creator. That's just like one, and I can tell you how we're doing that. But all of this really stems from the fact that there are still real systematic problems. The plumbing in the music business is rotten, and that needs to be cleaned up. Obviously, there's a lot of digital innovation that's been happening, but again, the plumbing needs to be changed. So
what is that rotten?
What's the plumbing?
What do you not like?
I think that there are a lot of predatory people in the music business. And I was most certainly a victim to that. And the music business has not had its, it hasn't had that watershed moment of okay, this is a problem in our industry. Hasn't happened. So you still have the same executives and the same creatives who exhibit predatory behavior, who are still in the rooms with young women. And so that's a huge problem. So one of the things that we're trying to solve is creating safe ecosystems for creatives. That's a huge part of our mission and our mandate is how do we create safe spaces?
We should also mention that you were signed to a major record label, right?
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
record
two.
label were you signed to?
Clive Davis signed me when I was 18. That was my first label deal. And then I signed to Interscope as my second deal.
And so now how do you feel about those deals in retrospect?
I feel like I needed to go through those experiences in order to be where I am. So I think that, you know, I definitely learned a lot through having gone through those systems the way that I did. I wish I hadn't, but I don't think that I'd be doing the work that I'm doing now had I not experienced those things very essentially myself personally.
Are you open to talking about your experience at the record label, the predatory behavior and all of that, or is that something that you just prefer not to talk about?
Yeah, I feel like more so now. I'm definitely, you know, I would say in the last year, I've become more open to talking about it. I think that I've done a lot of work myself processing the information through, you know, meditation and therapy. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an important conversation to have because I do think that I do think a lot of women in the business have gone through it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. So what is, I can tell that you're thinking about something specific when you say that. What is it that was really kind of a game changer for you that made you step away?
I ended up essentially, well, yeah, I mean, I was definitely forced into a number of situations that I did not want to participate in. I'll give you an example. But I won't name names because I have not done that before. And I just think that it's counterproductive. But you know, at a certain point in my career, I was forced into a relationship that I didn't want to be in. And it was it was a power move and the you know, and yeah, and I was in it for a while and eventually I was like, I stood my ground. I said, I don't want to be in this any longer. And I ended up getting dropped from my record deal like a week later.
So was it a PR move or was it somebody who was just in a powerful position?
It was someone in a powerful position.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, that I could have, you know, I could have sued that person. You know, there were so many other routes that I could have gone down, but I think my whole theory and my whole approach with this stuff is that I think that the work to change and better situations for other people can be done in a more tactful way than just calling out a bunch of people, right? Like the activism that I'm doing now is, I think, the thing that's going to hopefully change this business for the better than had I like been the person who brought all these people down.
Yeah.
You know, and those are two totally different approaches.
Yeah.
Right. But I chose to, when I got dropped from my record deal, I decided to totally step out of the music business. Like I literally I left LA, physically left LA because I just couldn't, I was so traumatized by the actual space. I moved to New York. I went to school. I literally left. And then it was while I was in college that I got perspective on the business, and I knew I wanted to go back in, but I knew I wanted to go back in through the lens of, you know, field work, philanthropy, social work, social giving, like that lens.
Do you feel like that gave you a little bit more power, a
Yeah.
sense of power, and that's why you wanted to kind of also be behind the scenes?
It's amazing how much education is power.
Yeah.
It just is. And I think that that's like the shining star, is it totally changes like your makeup and the way that you live your day to day. And again, like education doesn't have to be like formal, a 4-year college.
Yeah.
I think there's also but learning and the constant striving to constantly learn.
Yeah. And then also when you're working behind the scenes, then you're not relying so much on people giving you a chance, which is why I started working behind the scenes too, because
100%.
anyone who's been in Hollywood has experienced that behavior where they know that you're a young hopeful and they try to take advantage of it. And then you're constantly heartbroken because you went in with one idea and then you're just caught off guard with some sort of a proposal that you're like, wait, what? How could that happen? You know?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It gives you more agency.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that's a good, like being able to say, okay, cool. I'm doing all this work. I'm putting all this energy into this one specific thing. And then I can actually see a result afterwards and I can get a tangible thing out of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you get when you work behind the scenes that you don't necessarily get if you're constantly in front of the camera.
I saw the strategy in what you're doing, and I assumed that as a singer-songwriter, you're kind of creating more leverage for yourself as well, where you are in a powerful position now. You're a producer as well. You're not just a songwriter. You're not just waiting for someone to give you a chance. You're making the calls too. So now we came back full circle to SongStart again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the assumption's right for sure.
Good. I like it. I think it's very smart. Are you going to be working on a second season of the show?
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, we'd love to. The thing that's really cool is that there's basically when you watch and listen and read the material, the goal is that you can actually write and produce your own basic demo. There's so much more that you can build on that. So we can do another season about a different genre of music, totally different. We can do little offshoots on musical theater and how musical theater and pop are intertwined now. There are just so many new episodes that we can kind of build off of, and that is really, really exciting. And we're going to add like a live component in the new year, which I think is going to be really cool. And we're eventually going to add classes that you can sign up for, which is there's a lot of potential with that specific brand, and it's just really exciting.
That is so cool. And I mean, speaking about changing the industry and the infrastructure in Armenia, one of the first artists that you promoted on SongStart was an Armenian artist, right?
Yeah. Her name's Rosa Lynn. She's a 21-year-old singer, songwriter, producer from Vanadzor, Armenia. She's one of the most talented young ladies I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And it's really great to be able to give back in this way and be a part of the culture in this way. It's what like gets me up and motivated every morning, honestly.
That's awesome. So now to other young hopefuls in Armenia, in LA, all over the world. If they have an interesting idea and they are interested in pitching their idea to Spotify, to Apple, to any of the places that you mentioned, what are the steps to take? What should they do?
I think the first step is researching who you want to get to at a specific company and making a list, a really thorough list of a number of people. You can find these people on LinkedIn. You can find these people on social media, on Instagram. Reach out to people, find their profiles, find their handles, and reach out to them. There's literally nothing that you lose by doing that process. And then, I think the second most important thing after just doing the outreach and doing the research is following up. There is a level of persistence that is needed in order to be successful. It doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're persistent, we call it gentle hustle.
Yeah.
You need the gentle hustle. And, there have been people that I reached out to 2 years ago who every 2 months, 3 months or so, I'll follow up with them on an email. I'll just give you an example. Like there was this one guy who worked at this company who I'd been really trying to get a hold of for many years. Literally for 2 years, I emailed him every 6 weeks. He did get back. And we set up a call with him, and he is now a huge part of the business we're building. It took 2 years though. And sometimes that's just how long it takes. And the people who are persistent like that are the people that get in the room.
Yeah. Being overly polite is overrated.
Yes.
Yeah. You do want to be a little pushy. I like that. Yeah. What do you call it? The gentle
hustle.
Nice. Okay. And then, so do you find the contacts for Spotify, Apple, and all of these places? Do you find them online? How do you get access to these people?
Some of it's relationship building, and some of that just takes time. None of this happens overnight. I think that's another piece of advice that I'd give someone, is that it really takes 5 to 10 years. Really, it takes like 10 years to build a business. Mm-hmm.
And that comes through the networking of just kind of being out and about in all of these different industry events and things like that.
Yeah. And I think just if you're starting a career, it's just that idea of like the 10,000 hours, whether it's in business or in the creative sector, it just takes time. It takes time to get good at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And it takes time to network, and it takes time to get to know people. And it takes time to build those relationships. So I think also just going out there, trying to be in rooms, not saying no to opportunities. I think that's really important. Say yes. Say yes. If someone invites you out to something and it's something that could potentially advance what you're wanting to do, go to it. Like, don't, it's those face-to-faces are really, really important.
What about people who aren't in LA and don't necessarily have those opportunities?
I think that now with COVID and with everything going digital, there's so many digital events. There's so many, seriously, there's a way, connecting with people is not that hard anymore. It's just about, again, it's just about the persistence in reaching out. And if you know someone who knows that person, reach out to that person for a warm intro. The warm intros really, really help, I think, in many of these circumstances. I mean, there have been so many times where I've reached out to friends who know someone that I want to get to, who I'm like, will you please make a warm intro for me? And then some do and some don't. And the ones that don't, you go, okay, well, it's not meant to happen right now, so it's all good. But it's like what I was saying earlier, where like, the things that you're meant to manifest, they happen quickly. You don't have to force it into existence.
And then as far as shooting SongStart, you are the creative that came up with a concept. It got dark.
I know. I'm like, I need to turn a light on.
It's at like 4:30 now.
I know, I don't like that.
I hate that. As far as shooting the show, since you came up with a concept with your friend, did you partner with a production company of your choice, or did Spotify provide the producers and the production company? How did that work?
So Spotify ended up acting as the producer.
Mhm.
So they paid for the content. We hired they have on-hand producers. They have producers that create podcast and video content. And then we ended up hiring and interviewing a number of production companies and then picked the one that we really felt like aligned with our vision. So there was this company in particular called Partisan that we really loved. And we ended up getting and hiring this amazing female director, and whose husband is actually Armenian, which was awesome. So yeah, so it was that was kind of the process, and it was quite fun.
Nice. So what are the plans now?
Plans now. We are going to, with SongStart in particular, we are going to launch a live series starting in January. That is going to be pairing songwriting talent with really, really, really big artists and having discussions, doing, it's gonna be a whole thing. I'll tell you about it once we actually announce that we're doing it. But so that's exciting, and that's going to come out in January. On Navak Foundation's side, we're launching what we're calling the Artist Care Program, which is really cool. Essentially, we are going to be providing developing artists small grants in order for them to pay for healthcare, dental care, vocal care, therapy, mentorship, nutritional counseling. So we're launching that in Q2 of 2022. And with the label, we have an artist, with a bunch of singles coming out with our artists in the next few weeks and few months. And so that's except we have a new single from our artist in Lebanon coming out December 10th. That's in Arabic. That's really cool. So there's a lot going on.
That's cool. Do you find that being Armenian and having kind of a built-in audience from Armenia, that it gives you any kind of leverage in the industry, or do you not really connect the two?
In the US industry, or in the Armenian industry?
The US industry, because you kind of, I feel like if you are an Armenian artist and you already have that built-in audience with Armenians in Armenia who know you, I feel like it gives you a lot of leverage with followers, with views, with already coming in with some ears and eyeballs, whereas a lot of new artists don't have that advantage. Do you feel like you can use that as leverage?
100%. That always helps. It always helps having your local base and your local community supporting you. 100,000%. And you know, the cool thing about the Armenian community is that we do have a massive diaspora outside of the country too. So there's a lot of us, which is great. So, you know, I mean, I know so many artists that can just go and even just tour where the diaspora lives and make a real living doing that work.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
there's definitely, you can have a really successful and lucrative career doing that.
Yeah. Tamajan, thank you so much for sharing your journey. It was very interesting talking to you. I'm glad we finally got to meet. I'm glad we finally got to meet. I can't talk today. I clearly have not had enough coffee. I'm trying to catch up.
Are you really having coffee right now at 5 p.m.?
I'm really having coffee right now because I had the night shift tonight with my 1-year-old. My husband and I take turns. And so, yeah, the sleep factor, you really feel it. You know, when they say that lack of sleep, like driving when you haven't had enough sleep, is almost the same as like drunk driving. Now I'm like drunk talking.
I
Because of the lack of sleep.
I mean, we don't have kids yet, but man, that I know I have a lot of respect for moms and for parents for sure. It's not easy. So it's okay. You're forgiven. It's all good.
Our friends would always say, "Oh, sleep as much as you can now because you're not going to sleep once you have kids." And we're very rebellious, so we were just like, "So no, our kid's going to sleep. That's not going to happen." Always so pessimistic. Yeah, no, terrible sleeper. Terrible. He makes up with it. He makes up for it with his cuteness. So it's like,
that's good. That's good. That helps.
yeah. So Tamad, now I'm telling you, sleep as much as you can.
Totally.